Bonjour les amis. So I've lived in France for 8 years, but I've always found the French very hard to befriend. Today we're looking at how France works, in particular, friendships. Allez les amis, let's go.
Making friends in France, it flipped friendship on its head for me.
Have potlucks, have Thanksgiving with French people.
Learn the language. It's the most important thing.
There's this cliche that the French are rude. I often think it's just linguistics and like a cultural gap.
It might come across as arrogance, but in fact it's insecurity.
Yeah, there's a big difference between Parisians and people from other cities.
When you make friends with a French person, it is for life.
Now, I think you're a really good example of a person who's gone off the deep end and gone native. Like you've managed to integrate yourself with the French in a manner that a lot of Americans don't do. What's the best way to integrate? Like, what's your hot tip for how you did it?
Get a bestie that's French. No, I got lucky because I did my, well, maybe that's the answer to the question. I did my master's here.
Yeah.
It was in France, and so it was a master's program, like a French school. It wasn't an international school. It was a French school that I found on my own accord, and I made mostly French friends.
With our schedule, it just makes it a little bit harder because we seem to have like an opposite schedule of most people our age. If they're in school, we're off during the days and then we work in the evening.
Luca, you can validate a theory that I have. The French make friends in high school and in university, and there's a bit of a pause, and then make another wave of friends when they have kids and like the kids' parents.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yeah, generally I'd say that's true. For me, it's true. Work a bit, but I mean, they're not real friends.
It's much harder to make friends in France. It's just that the culture in France is that your close friends are friends who you've been to school with.
Because my host mother, she's still friends with like all her high school friends because she grew up in Paris and like is a Parisian heart like through and through.
Because the thing is, even one of my colleagues that I'm working with closely now is so lovely and we really get on well, but I asked him if he has any non-French friends and he said no, because he grew up in Paris and all of his friends from high school are still around, and he's married and has 2 kids, and if he has any time, it's going to be to see his friends that he's had for 20 years.
I think people come here and find that the French can be like cold or not very friendly.
Sure.
But once you get through that, you're friends for life, period. And so my best French friends, I met them when I was a student, when I was 20, before I met my husband. So I'm still really, really close to the girls that I met at that time.
It's like if you're a French person here, you normally already have a pretty established friend group, but if you're an expat of any culture here, you're kind of looking for friends. So that's why even if they're not American, we tend to find people who are like expats who are like, I need friends as well, rather than a French person who has the friends they grew up with their entire life.
Okay, so here's what happens.
Okay.
First of all, there's an enormous American community here of all ages, right? And there's a zillion concentric circles. Americans will immediately make friends within that community faster than they've ever made friends in their entire lives. No, it's true.
Yeah.
Because when you meet another American who has moved here, you've all gone through the same trials and tribulations, and so it's very easy to make friends. And I joke that you can make more friends in 3 months than you've made your whole life, and I think it really is true.
So my friend group is more English speaking. I do have the French side groups, so shockingly enough, I do get invited to hang out with their friends, which is very hard to get that invitation and wiggle in.
I love that living in Paris, I have a really, really diverse friend group. I have French friends and I have American friends and then I have friends from all over the planet. And that is so cool. And I think it's really unique to living here.
I have an expat circle, which is mainly in Paris. I would say it's 50%, both sides.
So how does one make friends with French people?
The best way is probably through work. If you're not working, then I would say joining organizations where you have some communication with the French.
I go to the American Church in Paris, so I sing in the Paris Choral Society and play bluegrass music with the bluegrass and old-time musicians that are here in Paris. And I sing in the church choir, because some of the French people are also interested in singing in the Paris Choral Society or playing bluegrass music.
One of the first things I put my mind to was like, I need structure and I love music, so I'm gonna look for, or at that point it was an artistic avenue, and I chose the chorale because, a choir because it was free, and the acting classes were all expensive, so I was like, why don't I choose a choir? So I had, once a week I was meeting French people every day.
I met a lot of people through seminars, also in sports clubs, comedy clubs. It is definitely, I mean, it's up to you to be active and actively seeking to meet people.
but it's completely possible, I think.
I feel like the same way I would make friends in America, so kind of some of the same outlets, work, and then a lot of the theater things that I do. Most of my outside of work friends are from theater, and a couple of friends that I had kind of from a previous life who lived in different cities and now live in Paris. But I find that, actually the people that I'm friends with tend to also be more internationally minded French people who are interested in musical theater, which is like in English generally, so they're interested in doing that with English speakers and their English level is pretty good.
The French love, honestly, I'm convinced, I'm like unabashedly American in my nature. I'm super, but stereotypically, I'm loud, expressive, kind of just in your face, buoyant personality usually, and they respond super well to that. But again, it's because I speak the language, and it's because I've already, it's like I respect you, you respect me, now I'm gonna be myself, and you're gonna either take it or leave it, and they respond well to it. They like it, they laugh, they think that I gotta have a performance review today where they're like, you bring an energy and a fun to the office that I really appreciate. That example is just to show it's not incompatible. Yeah. It's just sometimes we never get there because there are other barriers at play that either on their side or on ours.
The French can be a little put off by cordial and jovial interactions. It's nice to be nice, and I guess that's a good thing. But if you feel like you're putting off people, that's not a problem. That's just how French people are.
It seems to me, my experience in America, it's easier to make first contact and to have a little chat in the metro, on the sidewalk, or in a shop. Or it seemed to me harder to be invited at somebody's place. Whereas here it's harder to make first contact, but once you do make it, then a more profound friendship is possible.
Yeah, it's not superficial.
So this is an example of how the French misinterpret our culture. They always say Americans, you guys are fake, it's fake. They take it as fake, whereas we're not searching anything deep. We just want pleasant exchanges.
We value friendliness in America.
Okay.
We value self-effacing humor, like people who are willing to go for things. So then arrive in France, and to them, they took it as insincere that I said, I'm so glad that we met. Oh, I can't wait to hang out. That made me become very aware of my words.
Yeah.
And I think that that's still a common topic that I discuss with French people, is that they see Americans as superficial and as insincere.
I'm French, to the root, but I'd say I've got to know a lot more international folks than most French people, and that's opened me to their point of view as well, of coming to France and trying and integrating.
So it's hard to find French friends.
Yeah, I don't look for that.
Okay.
Because we spent 30 years as expatriates, I don't look for that because it has never really happened. It happens by accident.
With local people.
Exactly, exactly. And it takes a real special effort.
Could it be the fact that you're really good at French? Was that what maybe opened the door to the French befriending you?
Yeah, so definitely. Okay. I tried to answer that in the most humble way possible. I haven't always been, I definitely had a mastery of the language when I moved here.
They're more timid in a different language.
Yeah, naturally.
And they're less themselves.
None of them think they have perfect English. Every French person I know says, I barely speak English, and then they do. They literally do, and it's because of the way that they're raised.
Yeah.
The French teachers are so brutal here that if you're not perfect, you're garbage.
So if you're coming up to somebody and trying to speak in English to them, they're having flashbacks from that mean Madame Professeur in 7th grade.
I definitely think that.
And then they're feeling on the defensive, they're feeling accused, and all you're trying to get is directions to the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, you're like, listen, leave your shit behind. I just need to get to point A to point B, please.
Until you can learn, you can master at least some of it so that you can sit down with French people. You are going to be tied into an expat circle. I see a lot of British people who move here. They love the life here. They settle here and everything, but they only move in a circle of friends who are British because they don't speak the language. Well, that's a little bit of a shame, because even if it's going to be difficult, the beauty of the place is also to get to know the people.